Support WrestleTalk!
Support each other. Immediately following last week's episode of Raw, news broke via Pro Wrestling Sheet that a Performance Center recruit who had been part of the main roster crowd had tested positive for coronavirus on the 9th of June. That week's worth of batch tapings were halted, while WWE finally started testing staff and talent for coronavirus specifically, something they hadn't been doing up until that point. Instead, just taking people's temperatures and asking them to fill out a questionnaire. For comparison, both the UFC and AEW have been testing for coronavirus from the start, and unsurprisingly, more testing has revealed more coronavirus cases in WWE. Meaning it's definitely the increased testing's fault there. 2020, can you just calm the Terry Funk down right now, please? The positive COVID-19 tests were first reported last night by Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, who, since becoming WWE's Dirt Sheet representative on WWE Backstage, which was cancelled this week, has been seemingly responsible for breaking a number of big stories on WWE's behalf. Satin's original report suggested at least 3 people within the Performance Center had tested positive. The Wrestling Observer quickly added that the positive test results have affected at least 1 person who was scheduled to be at the upcoming Raw and SmackDown tapings. The Wrestling Observer noted that WWE will now be testing talent ahead of every single taping. It's taken them over 3 months to start doing this, and wrestlers and staff are now expected to isolate at home or in hotel rooms while they're not at a taping. PW Insider has reported that one of their sources within WWE has told them as many as 24 people have tested positive in the company, or 24 quick maths. And just like last Monday's positive COVID-19 report, the news caught WWE talent by surprise. Dave Meltzer reported several hours after the initial Ryan Satin tweet that talent and staff still hadn't been told about the positive test results, and that many would have found out the news on social media. 5 hours after the story was made public, Meltzer reported WWE still hadn't issued a statement to employees or talent. They've since announced WWE will continue COVID-19 testing of its talent, production crew, and employees in advance of TV production for the foreseeable future. This is just the latest example of a lack of transparency and communication between WWE management and the very people putting their health on the line to perform, with the wrestlers only realizing once they were in the ring to wrestle on last Monday's Raw that friends and family were now being let into the crowd alongside the NXT and Performance Center talent. It's almost like that was a bad idea, which WWE's doctors have reportedly agreed, apparently requesting that friends and family are no longer used in the crowd for safety reasons. While none of the reports have identified any of the positive cases, as that's private medical information, one person has come forward to announce it themselves. Long-serving interviewer and former Raw commentator Renee Young. Man, what a few days. My show gets cancelled and I get COVID. Wear your masks and wash your hands. Stay safe, everyone. Young's positive test appears to have affected not only WWE, but also AEW, as her husband, AEW champion Jon Moxley, was forced to pull out of last night's live episode of Dynamite. QT Marshall was also pulled from the show because he told management he had also come into contact with a positive coronavirus case. Speaking of, now it's time for last night's AEW in about 5 minutes. Thanks for your support on Patreon, Will, Lamparty Landrum, and the fan man, Dan Rutledge. The episode opened not just with the wrestlers in the crowd, but with wrestlers at ringside too for the opening lumberjack match between Wardlow and Luchasaurus. Why are they on purposely booking matches where loads more people are involved? That aside, Luchasaurus is my everything. His gimmick, his size, the way he busts out athletic martial arts spots like a velociraptor with a black belt in prehistoric hurt, which AEW really protects very well, with big meaty clashes of him against people like the Butcher or Wardlow often being teased in 6-man tags, but singles clashes are actually quite rare. As anxiety-inducing as the lumberjack gimmick was, it did allow for a sequence of really fun spots, like Wardlow hurling Marco Stunt off the stage onto everyone below, which Luchasaurus followed with a a shooting star onto everyone, which maybe he should rename the Extinction Event, because a shooting star kind of killed the dinosaurs. You're right, that's too soon. That's too soon. Luchasaurus had it won, but MJF distracted the referee, allowing Wardlow to hit a low blow and win. This prompted an in-ring brawl as Tony Schiavone announced it'll be Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus MJF and Wardlow at Fight Fest. Shida was more interested in trash-talking her opponent Penelope Ford over her next match, so she awesomely squashed Red Velvet with a running knee and a Falcon Arrow for the very speedy win, and then attacked Ford at ringside. This was another good step for the women's division, i.e. an actual story. In a segment that's so obviously Cody, we got a press conference ahead of his TNT title defense against Jake Hager at Fight Fest, with Cody surrounded by all your Nightmare Family favorites: Arn Anderson, Dustin Rhodes, The Bunny. What? Is that Shane McMahon? Jake Hager eventually came out with his wife and some restrained intimidation. I really enjoyed this. Following on from their vignette together last week, Sonny Kiss drove Joey Janela to a gas station for snacks. But while Janela was inside, Sonny was attacked by a group of guys. Janela came out to help, and the two awesomely fought off their assailants in slow motion like a Zack Snyder action scene. This was immediately followed by Sonny and Janela taking on Colt Cabana and Mr. Brody Lee, after Cabana had accepted the Dark Order's contract last week to team up. Having two stories told in tandem gave this multiple layers of intrigue, making it difficult to predict the winner. Kiss and Janela gel very well as an odd couple tag team, both hitting top rope moves to the outside. But thanks to Dark Order interference, Lee hit Janela with the discus clothesline and then let Cabana take the pin. Lance Archer then made his return to lay out Janela and Kiss, setting up Janela versus Archer for in a battle of the tag team initialisms. They're not acronyms because you can't make a pronounceable word out of them. FTR continued their tag division gauntlet by taking on former tag champions SCU. A lot of people liked the FTR match last week. I thought it was decent, just not the big performance FTR needed to remind everyone how great they are after being booked into the ground over their last year in WWE. I'm glad to say this, however, was that match. What's super important here is that this wasn't just a great match, it was a great tag team match, achieving drama and excitement you can't in singles competition. FTR won with the Shatter Machine, then cut an in-ring promo calling out the rest of the tag division, to be interrupted by The Blade and his new tag team partner, Dr. Robotnik, who stole FTR's entrance truck and then challenged them and the Young Bucks to an 8-man tag at Fight Fest, with their special tag team partners, the Lucha Bros. It should always be the Lucha Bros. Phoenix is back from injury, and Pentagon, from wherever he's been, attacking FTR and running off as the Bucks came to their defense. Yes, AEW, much tag, such lucha. Speaking of the tag division, segue. You know what? Actually, I should probably break this to you now if you haven't already heard. Just when you thought 2020 couldn't get any worse, after nearly 20 years, the company Segway will close next month. Thank you, Segway. You got me a high five from Jushin Thunder Liger. I will segue even harder in your memory. Speaking of the tag division, nailed that segue. We got an excellent, incredibly affable video package of various AEW commentators profiling the tag champs of Kenny Omega and Hangman Page and their opponents Trent and Chucky T. It's best friends versus best wrestlers. A great conflict to base their feud around, and to zoom out, yet another fascinating exploration of the weakness in Page and Omega's relationship. Brian Cage absolutely squashed John Cruz next, which included a really cool running powerbomb into the ring for Taz to cut yet another great promo on Mox, essentially calling him staying at home with his coronavirus positive wife a bull S-word excuse. This wasn't the big go-home angle they likely had planned, but they did the best with what they had. Brody Lee then asked Colt Cabana in what was seemingly an ultraviolet sauna to fight SCU at Fight next. In a 6-man tag, a nice continuation of Christopher Daniels' long-running involvement with the Dark Order. Britt Baker's plexiglass shield might keep out COVID, but it's not going to keep out swole emptying rubbish into it. Following Sammy Guevara's suspension for inappropriate comments he made about Sasha Banks 4 years ago, Matt Hardy took on a different Inner Circle member with Santana. Matt won in a decent match, so Proud and Powerful beat him up after to be chased off by Private Party. And in the legit main event program, as it's closed multiple Dynamites over the last month, Jericho called out Orange Cassidy in an amazing way, somehow pointing out everything wrong with Cassidy's gimmick while still getting him over. Jericho is one of the greatest of all time at this kind of promo, and he went too far when he snapped the Ray-Bans, prompting a brawl into the stands, leaving Orange Juice standing tall, somehow with yet another cut to his ear. It wasn't Becky Lynch pre-Survivor Series 2018, but it was still pretty cool. That was this week's AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comments down below, because I'll be replying to people from out of Britt Baker's plexiglass Rolls Royce. I really enjoyed this episode. Maybe it's because it was the first time in about a week where I've actually found escapism in wrestling again. There were so many stories on this show, and some really fun wrestling too. This week's Dynamite is 4 out of 5. A Raw star has angrily called out WWE for editing their match. Find out what's going on by clicking the video on the right, and watch mine and Luke's review of that show discussing Charlotte being written out of WWE by clicking the video below that. If you like what we're doing here, please go and follow us at WrestleTalk_TV on Twitter, and me at Ollie Davis. That was wrestling.